I promised you guys this video was coming, and at long last, we have my R32 GTR back home, and I'm gonna tell you guys everything that went down with it. Now, believe it or not, I got this car with the intention of having it restored by my friend Tommy. I spent a lot of time with him, and it was very cool watching his business grow into restoring some of the best Skylines with insanely talented Josh by his side. But the problem was when this car showed up, if you remember, it actually had an R34 Getrag 6-speed, an old school HKS turbo, and it was way better than I ever imagined. So the car was supposed to go right to Tommy. I wound up arriving, and I decided, you know what, first I'll put it on ethanol, see how it is. And the car made over 600 horsepower. It was a blast to drive. And I decided I wanted to hold on to it for a bit longer before sending it up there. He was super busy doing customer builds anyway, so it worked out that when some time on the schedule opened up, I was able to make a Connecticut trip out of it and drop the car off. But originally, if you remember, this car was supposed to get my R34 GTR's engine because I wanted to put a bigger engine in that. And the very first plan was to have Tommy basically just restore the engine bay, leave it as a roller, and then we would do the drivetrain down here. We got busy. I decided I didn't want to pull apart my R34 and then have that car not working. So I may or may not have put a new and better engine in this car. Kind of a weird scenario, because usually if I was going to build an engine or do something, the first one would have blown up. The engine that was in this car was actually in great shape, but I had to make it a little bit spicier. So I actually bought a core off Tommy and built it into an HKS 2.8. So this car, very unlike most of my other builds, is actually an HKS parts catalog car. All bolt-ons, no fabrication. It's how they build cars in Japan. It's how Tommy likes to build cars. What I like the most about it is it kind of held true to the heritage of how this car came over with the old school bolt-on HKS turbo kit. Now it's just a little bit more modernized with a standalone ECU and newer HKS parts. So this is their step 0, 2.8, and of course I had to do a V-cam step 2. It's got a 272 exhaust cam. This is the GT3 4R setup kit. This turbo is good for around 700 horsepower at the crank. The direction for me, having a 2.8 with V-cam and with a smaller turbo, I know 700 horsepower doesn't sound small, but for like a 2.8, a GT3 4R is what people usually put in a 2.6. Response focus. I didn't want some crazy big power monster. Tommy was stoked about the idea. It's different than what he normally is focused on doing because he knew that I would turn this thing up. Going over a couple little bits, you can see exactly the process that Tommy and his team uses to restore this car, but Josh is a wizard when it comes to a lot of the OE stuff. It's got the remade intake manifold setup. This ARC radiator I thought was pretty cool. I was actually able to retrofit the old hot side cover from the old turbo kit, and of course the old logo Nismo bar and all the fresh vapor hone, zinc plated, powder coated, you name it. She's looking spicy. The details on camera don't do it justice. They also painted the front bumper too, because that one was getting a little bit faded. I will say a small disclaimer. Originally the car was supposed to be finished like right around now, but the Vegas thing came up when we were over there for banging gears, and I really wanted the car there. So two things where we had to compromise to meet the timeline was not having time to do a nice intake setup. That's why the filter's just on the turbo. And of course, these radium catch cans, I wouldn't want them here. I would want them over there, so that way these lines aren't going over. But the time to get the intake setup done and then get the catch cans over there, it was better to have a running car than to obsess over that, knowing that it would be an easy fix once the car got back to Florida. The little details overall between Tommy's vision, Josh's skill, and his attention to detail, I'm super happy with the car. It feels weird to have a car that was built by someone else, but also very cool to support a friend doing rad things. Another thing that's like one of my favorite touches, I actually had the HKS Hot Parts Cerakoted Black, and it's something that I think I want to start doing in more builds. It just looks gangster, especially when they're putting it together. I'll put a photo up on the screen. It's real good. We got the PRP goodies on here. I kept the battery up front because I hate rear located batteries. I don't know why, just not a fan. Inside and outside everywhere else, the car's pretty much the same, so let's just call it an engine bay restoration along with a new clutch just to hold for more power. But as you guys know, in Vegas, things actually didn't go exactly as planned. The car came to Vegas untuned, and the plan was to tune it there. And like probably in like the first 5 dyno pulls, it started making a little random misfire that I knew all too familiar, and you're about to see in the following clip. But that stupid little gremlin ate into the very little time that I had between sets and shooting, so I missed the deadline to have the car on the show. But I was able to get it fixed over there. I was able to have a little bit of fun doing it with a special guest, and I got to do a few rips before the car came home to Florida where I could spend more time cranking the boost way up. All right, there's been a lot going on. I think you guys are seeing this like back in time. Yeah. I just have to say how cool it is. Like, man, like we've met up and we've done stuff together, but the idea of pulling apart a GTR engine together, like, it's pretty freaking cool. Like watching you on my big screen talking about engines and stuff and doing stuff. Sure enough, my suspicion, well I should say our suspicion, about chucking a shim.
You were right though.
Was right. And we were a little worried at first. If it focuses, the shim is still wedged to the side. Basically what happens on these engines, it chucks the shim, it wedges it, holds the valve open, lose compression. Also, massive shout out to Hank. Spin it on Hank.
What's up?
Dude, the hospitality of letting us use everything here and the guys hanging out, like it's been amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm dying to do some stuff with some of your many crazy Audis. But I'm just like, dude, I've got so much time into this thing right now. That's all I can focus on. But like, I get it done, then we go do donuts in the TT.
Yeah, we love this stuff, so it's pretty easy to get excited about other passionate people. So you got the shim. Is it stuck on the back?
Yeah, see, so it moves to the side and then it wedges itself there, where it needs to be centered. Yeah, there was a mark where you could see that it was sitting crooked.
Nice.
It's nice that it confirms the suspicions. So
You should have seen how not excited or not nervous we were last night.
Yeah.
It was just like totally.
yeah, I know.
Poker face, right? It was just like.
It sounded like the engine blew. I was like, the first thing I did, I was like, yo, Andrew, pull the cast. I'm cranking it. It was like,
That telltale of, oh heck, yeah.
I know. So we've got the compression tester out. 110, 110, 110, 110, 110, 50.
Yeah. It's probably the last cylinder too. It's always the last cylinder, right?
Yep.
Next time I'm starting at 6, all right?
Yeah, I know.
Like, hey, the plugs are good until you get to number 6 and you're like, oh man.
But yeah, found the problem.
I've done this probably 10 times.
Nice.
To be fair, spinning at 8,500.
Yeah, single valve springs and 8,500 is,
Just chucks them out.
yeah.
We're right on.
You haven't got any double valve springs for an RB26 here, do you?
I do not. For a V10, yes.
V10,
For an RV,
yes.
no.
Hey, does it matter what direction?
No. The thickness is the thickness, that's all that matters. All right, see?
That's what she said. We don't need to redo the half moons and back, right?
Did it have silicone on already?
Just a little bit on the surface.
I've done this where I've taken these cam covers off 5 times and never redone it until it's been fine, but...
Well, I know for sure we want to do it on the front there.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go. Ready to party. Look at that. All same now.
We're gonna take a little departure from the main topic of this video and spend a little bit of time with the Mark IV Supra. Now, I was lucky enough to start with a car for this giveaway that is pretty much immaculate on the exterior. The wheels really sealed the deal, the paint's already corrected, and it looks awesome. Performance-wise, we're just waiting on the exhaust and intake manifold to show up before we dive into the engine, but the number one first mod that I always do with pretty much every single car is seats. The interior on this car is actually fairly clean. You can see it's got typical bolster wear on the stock seats. And man, like, for me to give away a car with stock seats, they'd have to be some really good stock seats. I realize we just did that with NSX, but like Mike can attest, those seats were literally
brand new.
A++++. So, what kind of seats do you think that we got for this thing? Is there a meme that you can put on the screen where it's like some like really tacky seats and then like Patrick saying, this? This? Is it this? Yeah, or you could just do that with me saying that and then you can put it on the screen.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, they are not carbon fiber and they are very heavy. But they are very spicy.
So was the dude shipping them, apparently.
Listen, if they're used seats going into a giveaway car, that means they must be pretty nice used seats, okay?
No, I agree. Yeah, Hercules throwing packages.
Yeah, they're pretty heavy.
Looking at DHL.
Yeah, this is how Adam hurts his back. All right. Ready? Mm-hmm. If you guys can't guess this, you don't watch my channel. I probably own more of these seats than any other seat on the planet. And we have SR3 confettis, baby. Mint condition, probably one of the most comfortable seats. They look good, and believe it or not, Mark IV Supras in Japan came with confettis, so they suit the car well. It's not like we're putting in a seat that's not era specific or from the wrong car. Gonna look great, gonna feel great. That's all for you.
$35.
And it's a great way to stay in shape. Again, the most stereotypical Adam thing to do. Got some bride seat rails. If you don't know why I swear by these things, whether you have a bottom mount or side mount, the rails are actually welded to the base. So that way when you go to install, everything just lines up. And in the case of a bottom mount seat like this, it's literally like 2 or 3 bolts and then you're done. There's nothing else. And it's the greatest thing ever. The amount of times that I haven't been able to complete a seat install without having to go to the hardware store, stoked. Got my bolts and nuts array. We're ready to rock.
Heard that one.
What? That was my
Sorry.
leg, that wasn't my back. Because now we gotta wrap the seatbelt off this thing.
Is that a JDM French fry or is that a Johan French fry?
No, we didn't eat in the car.
Here's the part where I have something useful to say. Maybe a piece of advice, maybe a sly comment, something to keep you watching the video and to keep auditory things going on, because no one likes dead space in a YouTube video. That's why a lot of times when I'm installing parts, I just talk, even though everything that comes out of my mouth is bull. Weight of the seat, pretty similar to the other weight of the other seat. Been here before. It's a good place to be.
Close call there.
I don't like that.
You might not want to put seats on boxes.
I don't like that one bit. Final touch for this thing, and I gotta say I'm very jealous of these. I'm gonna need a set for my Supra. Johan picked these up for the car. Pretty freaking cool. Except it should probably say LZMFG because HKS isn't tuning on this car. Not that HKS is bad at tuning, but like we just do things a little different around here, you know? Full disclaimer, if you do end up winning this car, I hope you know how to work on cars because every single bolt for the seats are cross-threaded. I wouldn't do that. That would be the worst thing. I'd be like, yeah, no, it's cool. I don't want the car. As expected, I'm happy with them. They look great. But I'm very excited to get to the performance bits. I don't think that we'll be getting to my personal Supra until this one's getting close to completion. So I'll get to have some fun with this thing before it goes off to you guys. As a reminder, every $5 you spend on LZMFG or Drift HQ gets you under for a chance to win this car, $20,000 cash. It's gonna be spicy. It's gonna be like 7 and change. Look great, sound great, eat great.
So that's 14 PSI, right?
Yep.
And right now VCAM is off just for the purposes of doing all the initial tuning.
Yeah, look at look at how ridiculous this is. That's no VCAM versus VCAM.
It's a huge difference.
Huge difference.
It's like having a 3.2 in it. Like it's crazy.
Yep.
There are guys in Australia that have done 3.2 with VCAM, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's like, you might as well just swap a V8 in it, right?
Can we build you a 3.2 or what? What do you reckon?
I've been asking, dude. Get at me, dude.
Let's get it done. Yell down the barrel at Herman.
All right, Herman, if you're watching this, let me snap a photo of this. It's just me, or does it sound like it's idling weird right now?
Don't you like when people put cameras in your face under a car?
Actually, you know,
Happens a bit, right?
quite like it.
Yeah? Do you think?
It's alright.
Never happened to me before.
No?
Well, it has. Alright, so there's your view.
To loosen this bit?
And there's my view, but camera can't see it from here. We just did the most least surprising thing that ever happens on a GTR, Adam. Spin a belt. Would you like to talk about that, sir?
What I'm curious more than anything, right? Like I know the VCAM's rad and it does good things, but the guy behind the camera right now is pretty anti VCAM. So I want to hear what your thoughts are now seeing it in real life and seeing what it does to the graph.
Look, I agree with the graph, right? The graph doesn't lie, but I'll keep coming back to this. The reason I'm not a big VCAM guy is because, well, when you got a 3.2 stroker and 290-degree cams with huge lift, you don't need VCAM and it doesn't fit anymore. But this power level, up that 600-700 region on a 2.6, 2.8, I think it's killer. Like, it's really good.
We gotta add power steering fluid to it, a couple other little things, but like, I think it should be good enough for us to take a rip or two.
I don't even care if it hasn't got power steering. I'll still go for a rip.
Full disclaimer, the car is so far from being finally tuned. Like, it's also running 20 pounds when I plan to run 30 pounds in this thing, so let's just call this stage 1.
In Australia, it's called run-in tune.
All right, you ready? I want to see what you think of this, because I'm pretty happy with the with it so far. It needs an alignment badly, but
Oh, that's all right.
all right, ready?
Yep.
That's good, man.
That's good.
That's really good.
There's your mid 10-second GTR already.
That's kind of wild, huh?
That's good. That's
It just
good.
stays in it.
Yeah, that's gonna have some top end charge as well, baby, with that turbo. That's good. I like it. That's a good, fun street car.
Yeah, it is.
This reminds me of when I had mine with jet drag and everything. It was sick. That was good, man.
Yeah.
That was real good.
Yeah.
I even need to film my own reaction to that.
I know. I had to get a good 1, 2, 3 just to make sure that the Aussie approved.
Dude, that's a fast car.
It feels like it rips.
Fast.
Thanks.
That rips.
Do you guys mind filming one from the outside?
There you go.
Launching brand new motor, I love it.
Holy.
So much going on in Vegas that I couldn't accurately convey all my emotions and reactions to things, and I wish I had one of the exhaust sound. When I did those pulls outside of the buildings over at IROS, the sound of this thing, I mean, sure, it sounded good on the dyno, but it's got the titanium HKS exhaust. It's so quiet, but it's got this craziest high-pitched noise, especially without it being externally gated. Probably one of my favorite things about this car. I know Colette's gonna love it because it doesn't have any drone, and it's like pretty easy to have a conversation, but the sound, which is such an important part of the build for me, nailed it. I've got the biggest smile on my face. It's sick because it's so quick with the shifting, but it stays in boost and it just goes.
Needs that jet drag life. I haven't seen the jet drag everyone for so long of how fun they are, and they're so good.
I'm pumped.
That's sick.
Big happy. All right, well, we're back in Florida now, and before we jump back into the R32, I have a very special thing to share with you guys. This is a very, very powerful phase converter. This is from Brand X. They make high output alternators for all different kinds of applications, high output starters, AC and DC electrical motors, and of course, a phase converter. Now this thing is what we needed to be able to hook the dyno up somewhere else. Before, we've been running it in the Drift HQ warehouse. This allows us to be able to get all the power that we need. So not only can we run the hubs now, we can finally use the mainline fan that we haven't been able to use because we didn't have the power to do it. Listen to this thing. Can I start it, Johan? You don't care if I turn it on, right? Ready? Mike hasn't heard this yet. That's pretty crazy.
Damn.
That thing's got some juice in it. I know nothing about how this thing works, but Brand X does, and they got you covered.
Stop. Indiana.
It looks really dangerous, but I was assured it's actually not dangerous to like touch or go near. But doesn't it look like something would shock you if you touch it?
Yeah.
This is the new, I don't want to say permanent home, but temporary permanent home, because now we can leave a car on the dyno without it interrupting with Drift HQ shipping and handling, which the guys made great adjustments for, and we appreciate them tolerating us. But could you imagine being on a Drift HQ sales call and hearing all my cars dynoing all the time? It was probably cool at first, but then it got annoying. Anyway, this actually isn't the first time the car's been back on the dyno in Florida. As soon as it got here, I put it back on and hopped on to get it tuned. And there were two issues. One, there were some boost leaks that must have just popped up over time that were addressed, but the car was making like 40 to 50 less horsepower at the same boost, and it had me puzzled. Bear with me because this was pretty confusing to me at first, but it makes sense now. I was speaking with Hank over at IROS, where this car was on the dyno before. The elevation is higher, so you'd expect the car to make less power. But the main line has about a 10% correction factor to make the power read the same in different locations. But the important thing is that correction factor only makes sense if you don't change the boost duty cycle. So if the car made 15 pounds in Florida, I brought it to Vegas, it would probably make about 12 or 13 pounds of boost because there's less air, and that correction factor would read the same number that it was making in Florida with more boost. Now in Vegas, if you turn the boost back up, so you're at 15 pounds in Vegas, when you're at 15 pounds in Florida, the number's probably gonna read higher in Vegas because the correction factor, even though your butt dyno would have a similar feeling. Again, it's kind of confusing, but that correction factor would make a lot more sense if the duty cycle wasn't played with, or if we were at the absolute limit of the turbo, which we certainly were not. So now that we got that figured out, I also put a stiffer wastegate spring in the car so I could turn the boost up more. 22 pounds, those are rookie numbers. You wanna see something cool?
Sure.
Go, can you check my radiator for me real
Oh,
quick?
yeah,
Can
sure.
you check my radiator?
Yeah. Sir.
This is like, I feel like it's gotta be like 150 miles an hour of wind.
Yeah, it feels like Hurricane Ian.
This is what we needed the power for. We couldn't run that with the other one, so we were using those dinky little fans. Now the car is freaking cooler than it'll ever be in Florida. So basically, main task here, adding a little bit of boost, cleaning up timing, cleaning up the V-cam, see what it makes now that we're in Florida. Obviously the car's a little bit heat soaked at this point, but we ended with the best power pull of about 650 wheel. We're only revving it out to about 8,000 RPM. You can see it rolls over pretty hard past like 7 grand. The car actually makes around 30 pounds of boost, but then tapers down to 23 at redline. Despite adding a stiffer spring, it seems like we're running into back pressure issues. The HKS downpipe and even like where it goes to the rear exhaust seems like it's barely 3.5, and I'd really like to have like probably like a 3.5 to 4 inch downpipe on this and a full 3.5 inch exhaust. So we're definitely running into probably some back pressure issues. The exhaust housing looks pretty small, but if we compare it to where the engine was before, this is a huge, huge difference. So this was a 2.6, no V-cam with an old laggy turbo, and you can see we're hitting the same torque about 1,000 RPM sooner, and then at any given RPM in the mid-range, we're making like 150 more wheel. So what we've done is we've basically taken a car that made a lot of power up top, made very similar power up top, but widened that mid-range a ton. And my goal with this car wasn't some crazy high horsepower highway monster. I feel like in my head that's what the 33 or the 34 would be. The 32, I really wanted to have a bit more mid-range and be a little bit more responsive, zippy, not an Evo, but more like an Evo than like a big old laggy high horsepower highway car. So based on the dyno graph, I think we've achieved that mission. But let's be honest, a graph doesn't really mean anything. The real world and the butt dyno is going to tell us how this car feels. And I know it felt great in Vegas, and despite it reading similar horsepower numbers in Vegas, it's making about 10 more pounds of boost here, and we have the atmosphere in our favor. So I think the car should feel like 100 wheel faster than it felt in Vegas, and it already felt fast there. The maiden voyage in the R32. Only felt right to take Johan with me since you were in this thing when we first got it off the port.
Yeah, let's see the difference.
I know,
Tommy did it.
You'll have the best kind of frame of reference because I've obviously driven the car when it's like in its like intermediary state.
Okay.
But I'm so excited.
Sounds good.
It's definitely not a Garrett turbo, that's for sure. But it's good.
But it has the right noise.
Yeah.
Right sounds.
I like that it's quiet enough to have a conversation too.
Yeah.
Roll into it a little bit. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Damn, this thing's gonna be spicy. I feel like the torque level is like 110 from what it was before.
Oh no, it's not like a huge difference. I mean, before it was fast. Like, we can't take away from what this car was when it came from Japan.
And even after we did ethanol in it, the car is technically only making 10 more wheel horsepower now. It's just making gobs load more torque and the power a lot sooner. Like the hit is just crazy.
Yeah.
Like I don't know that I've ever had a car that throws me back that hard. Which sounds like an exaggeration, but like the all-wheel drive is pretty freaking good. Beans. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's just like the transient is what's so killer on this. And it was that way even with the old motor, but compared to the 34 that was such a dog between gear changes.
Yeah, this one's like really short, like just like quick to the gears.
Yep. Dang, this is a good car.
It's
good, man.
Yeah.
It's plenty.
Yeah. This is perfect.
My goal wasn't to have like the craziest high power GTR, it was just to take kind of the package that it had but add a bunch more mid-range to it, and I feel like it did exactly that.
Yeah. And you can see it on the graph.
Oh yeah. This is more than enough.
Yeah.
Even short shifting, it's still just like there.
I was about to ask you were you short shifting it because
I kinda did on
look
purpose.
over. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good car. My booth needs a spice. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real good. Wow. We'll do a better one. I bogged her a little bit.
Yo, she gets down.
She's hooked up right now.
I can imagine in third, this bitch would move.
Yeah, this thing would roll Lee's car, that's for sure.
No, set it up. You hear that?
Okay. Let's go. She gets down.
Sick. Yo, that was good.
I love this thing. It's just the amount of grip and spin too.
God damn.
It's a good car. Overall, I'm super happy with the car. Very thankful for Tommy and Josh both taking the time and energy to put into this project. There's so much detail to talk about and so many things to cover, and this video already has so much random information and stuff in it that I know we're gonna need to make a follow-up, and maybe I will make a video dedicated to this car with better audio. Maybe I'll mic up the engine bay and the exhaust, and we'll do some rips around the compound, see what kind of lap time it sits. But more than anything, I wanna see some questions, comments, stuff that I can use as a topic to talk about this car when I do make a video on it. But other than the intake and the radium catch can that I wanna get moved around for aesthetics, I think if I had to change one thing out of anything with this build, if you guys haven't guessed it already, I'm a big Garrett guy, and look, I knew that the HKS turbo wasn't gonna be up to par. Small disclaimer, the new HKS turbos actually are based on G series, so they're sick, but the GT3 4R is the size that I wanted for the RB28. The best size one of the new HKS lineup, which is like the black and gold turbos, is based on a G35 1050, but this thing needs like a G35 900. This is some old school journal bearing. I think it's like technically a Mitsubishi turbo. It's cheap, right? It comes with a hot parts kit. The transient's good, so I'm happy with that, and it doesn't spool too bad, but it does fall over flat on its face, which could be a back pressure limitation, or it could just be a characteristic of the turbo. But if I had to do it all over again, I'd find a way to stuff a G35 900 inside that thing. It'd pick up some response, it'd probably make like 750 wheel, and it'd be, but it doesn't need it. It's great, I love it. I think it's cool that for once I have a car that's different than all the other cars that we've built. It stays true to the heritage of the car and the soul that it came over with from the boat from Japan. And with a little more refinement, I can say something that is probably the most common question I ever get. I think this is gonna be my all-time favorite car that I own. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check out Tommy's channel if you wanna see any more videos on the car, and I'll be looking for your comments to see what to focus on next.